I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. It's Friday, April 24th. News headlines in Arkansas. Late yesterday afternoon, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge announced that she'd approved the form of a proposed petition drive that would ask voters whether they wanted to keep the new state law that prohibits cities and counties from passing ordinances that extend civil rights protections to gay people. The organizers of this petition drive will have 90 days to gather 51,000 signatures. If they get enough signatures, it would be on the ballot in November 2016, and the law could not take effect until then, according to the Arkansas Constitution. You might be interested to know that there's something of a split in the gay community on this issue. There's a belief that voters might not be ready to pass a repeal of that ordinance, and thus it would be a setback. There's also resistance to the notion of whether we should have a vote on people's individual rights. You know, City Attorney Tom Carpenter, in approving the form of a Little Rock ordinance that does extend some gay civil rights protections in terms of restricting companies who do business with the city from discriminating, has said that essentially the Arkansas Constitution makes it unconstitutional to discriminate against gay people. That might be the state of the law now. Maybe we don't need a law, but I think there's going to be some court action and petition drives and maybe even an election before we have the final answers to that. Interesting new report from University of Chicago academic I reported on the Arkansas blog this morning. He says that after intensive study, he's concluded that tax breaks don't encourage job creation when they're targeted to wealthy people. When tax breaks are targeted to poorer people, they do create jobs. It's really very simple. When poor people get tax cuts, they spend their money. That's an economic stimulus. This, of course, turns on its head the Arkansas model. Asa Hutchinson gave some big tax cuts this year, and in his program, the biggest tax cuts went to the richest people in Arkansas and a huge capital gains tax cut. The poorest workers in Arkansas got no income tax cut at all. Under this researcher's theory, we went about it just backwards. We'll see in a while who was right about that. News today on the Buffalo River. For one thing, the Pollution Control and Ecology Commission today extended for 6 months a moratorium on new hog feeding operations in the Buffalo River watershed so that study can continue on an existing hog farm and whether it's causing pollution problems up there. So far, the legislature has been unwilling to consider or approve a rule that would stop mass feeding operations in the Buffalo River National Watershed, which is about the only thing that is a certain guard against pollution from animal feeding operations and hog manure. The other development is that Earth Justice announced that the U.S. Justice Department has dropped its appeal of a lawsuit that found that federal loan guarantees that were provided for the existing hog farm up there in Mount Judy were illegally done because there wasn't a sufficient environmental assessment made first. They'll have another year to do the right kind of assessment. Now, this could mean that if it doesn't pass muster, they might lose their loan guarantees, or the government could put new conditions on the operation of the farm to ensure that the operation doesn't cause environmental consequences. The fight continues against that hog farm. However, developments are in favor of clean water, not against them. That's good. Other quick headlines. The Indiana Education Department sent me a message today. They're interested in inquiring into the news stories about Dexter Suggs, who left as Little Rock School Superintendent amid reports that he'd plagiarized his doctoral dissertation. She says that department has a means of revoking certification of administrators for certain kinds of misconduct. She's going to take a look and make a recommendation depending on what she's finding. That's a stronger action than the state of Arkansas took. It got Dexter Suggs to leave, but paid him $250,000 to do it. Other news, Arkansas State University has gotten accreditation approval to start an osteopathic medical school in Jonesboro. Another one is also underway in Fort Smith. There's UAMS in Little Rock. UAMS may expand an operation in Northwest Arkansas into another medical school someday. Do we have too many medical schools? Well, ASU doesn't think so. They certainly think they need one. There is news in Maumelle today. A teacher was in a hit and run this morning. There's a early suggestion perhaps she was under the influence, and later in an unrelated incident, a student was arrested for being drunk at school. Problems there, coincidental, perhaps, no more than that. Organizers of a potential football bowl game in Little Rock announced last night that they just couldn't clear all the hurdles to get a game in Little Rock this year in 2015, but they're hopeful of doing it next year. Learned from a report in the Saline County News organization that Doyle Webb, the chairman of the state Republican Party, who's been very successful politically, has some problems in his business. The city of Benton says if he doesn't fix up some rent houses he owns, they're going to have to tear him down. They're in such sorry condition. And I want to add a correction to something I said yesterday. Tim Griffin is leading the Common Core hearings around the state for Governor Hutchinson. As I remarked on the blog this morning, these are mostly theater. But I said that there was something of a conflict in that Tim Griffin is a paid lieutenant governor, and he was going to work for Mike Huckabee's campaign. Mike Huckabee, who's running for president, hates the Common Core now after once supporting it. A spokesman for Griffin's campaign sent me a note last night to say that Tim Griffin is not being paid for this work. It's strictly a volunteer effort. It still seems kind of contradictory under the circumstances, or at least presents a conflict for him being a fair arbiter if he really is working for Mike Huckabee. That's it for me today. It is my 39th wedding anniversary. I'll probably go home and do the laundry for my wife, as I always do. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back next week.